Initially, I knew that I wanted to go back to grad school, so I started researching, and I ended up choosing the K-State program just for a variety of reasons. One, it was online, which made it very flexible for me to still have a full-time career, but it also provided the opportunity to come on campus and network and engage with my peers and with the faculty here as well. And also just wanted to stick with a university that had a strong reputation and especially had deep roots in agriculture.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse Executive Editor Phil Brasher, discussing the week that was, agriculturally speaking, in Washington, D.C. And to be honest with all of you, it was a very Thursday-heavy week here in Washington. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of activity, a lot of things for us to summarize here for you in this week's video that are going to affect not only the foreign policy landscape in Washington, but also a number of things very critical to production agriculture across the country. And the first thing we want to mention is that this week, Wednesday evening actually, we saw the introduction of a bill, a continuing resolution to fund the government and avoid a government shutdown on October 1st. And Phil, a number of things critical to ag and foreign policy within that CR.
Right. This continuing resolution is needed to keep the government funded after October 1st when the new fiscal year starts. And as usual, we don't have any of the spending bills passed yet for fiscal 2020. As you mentioned, the CR has a number of provisions, but the most important one, without question, to agriculture is a provision that would replenish USDA's borrowing authority under the Commodity Credit Corporation. This is what the authority that they use to fund commodity programs, and also right now, most importantly, the market facilitation program, the trade assistance program that the Trump administration created last year and is continuing this year.
So that CCC borrowing authority that you mentioned there, Phil, something that was the subject of a pretty partisan, pretty fiery debate at a House Agriculture Subcommittee hearing today, with Ranking Member Mike Conaway saying that this is something that the Democrats are giving themselves credit for fixing, but it was an issue they created in the first place. Committee Chairman Colin Peterson firing back and saying that this was something that was created by Republicans in 2010 in the old Tom Vilsack and Blanche Lincoln days, and that resorted to a tweet. I'm going to read it directly to make sure I get the language correct. Subcommittee Chairman Philemon Vela taking to Twitter and later confirming that he was directly referring to Mike Conaway, saying, "Our caucus doesn't need to be lectured by a racist Christian pretender who led the effort to starve America's poor." And he went on to mention that the Democratic members of the House Agriculture Committee had fought against the CCC effort within the CR. They very much so wanted to see that money included. But Phil, I mean, we mentioned this, it's a long backstory, but the House Agriculture Committee typically has been one of the least partisan committees in all of Congress. I mean, I don't want to use throw around the word unprecedented, but it's got to be close.
I've never seen anything like this. And what's happening here, you got to step back. This is the vicious partisan atmosphere and the high stakes of the 2020 election seeping into the Ag Committee. Usually doesn't happen. It certainly happened today. This started with a week ago when the House Democratic leadership leaked that they were looking at a plan that would have denied this authority, replenishing of the CCC authority for USDA, that could have slowed these trade assistance payments and also potentially created some problem for other programs, marketing loans and so forth. No surprise, Republicans jumped on this. There are a number of rural districts that will be in play in 2020. Districts that were held by Republicans, now held by Democrats. Iowa, Minnesota, and some other states. The Republicans, represented by Congressman Conaway, went after the Democrats, even though they've relented on this issue, as we said. This authority is in the bill. Democrats vigorously defended that. So that's the backstory of this. It's all about the 2020 election. Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, we've seen in other committees and other areas on Capitol Hill, we've seen not identical, but similar back and forth, similar partisanship within committee leadership. It just seems that agriculture is not able to live within its less partisan and more regional bubble here today.
Yeah, and the personal and nature of this, and just again, the committee is not traditionally partisan at all, but certainly was this week, and just we're going to probably see more of this to come.
Mm-hmm. So another thing that we want to mention before we wrap up here this week is, frequently folks see appropriations and a continuing resolution following along similar tracks, which is a fair point, but the broader appropriations process still unfolding on Capitol Hill. This CR just meant to go until November 21st, but looking for a broader, longer term continuing resolution or a broader funding mechanism, the appropriations process still unfolding on that front. And Phil, something we saw this week was the Senate beginning their process and kind of setting themselves up for a debate with the House on a couple of things, in particular relocations of ERS and NEFA to Kansas City.
Yeah, the House passed most of its spending bills this summer, and one of the things they included in there was a provision that would block USDA from relocating the Economic Research Service and the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. The Senate Appropriations Committee just started moving its version of those bills over the last 2 weeks, approved a bill this week that would not only not block the relocation, but provide $25 million to carry it out. So this fall, the House and Senate are going to have to negotiate that out. It's going to be a big issue facing House and Senate leaders.
Mm-hmm. Another issue facing Congress here before, in theory, before the end of the year, but not necessarily certain, is the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, the Trump administration's update to NAFTA. Didn't see a lot of public progress on that, but we did see the Trump administration send their language back to House Democrats in that ongoing negotiation to get that caucus, perhaps a little bit closer to a louder and more vocal yes on that agreement. Once the House is able to consider it, the Senate will then take it up, and so a lot of folks hoping that's something that can happen before the end of the year and not, that 2020 election season that you mentioned earlier, Phil. A lot of folks hoping USMCA doesn't get wrapped up in that.
Well, absolutely. What we can tell you is the two sides are still talking. Bob Lighthizer, U.S. Trade Representative, is still back and forth to Capitol Hill. And most of the signs we're hearing from the leadership and from the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Richard Neal, has been fairly positive, so optimistic anyway. So we'll keep going.
Yeah, we will be certain to keep you up to date on all of the various twists and turns of trade and CCC and CR and all kinds of other acronymic politics unfolding here in Washington in these next couple of weeks as the Congress looks to avoid a government shutdown and the administration looks to move one of its chief policy priorities across Capitol Hill. But I think that's going to do it for this week. So for Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.